Let's all hoops, let's all hoops, let's all hoops. What's the scoop? What's the scoop? What's the scoop? Let's talk hoops, let's talk hoops, let's talk hoops. What's the scoop? What's the scoop? What's the scoop? Keep it 1000, I'm so A1 with the T.
Hoops Tribe, this is another episode of WNBA Headlines. My name is Cassie Chantel, and let's talk hoops. As the season draws to an end, the league has been releasing awards, and for the most part, they got things right, but the people have raised eyebrows over one award in particular, and that's the Defensive Player of the Year award earned by Napheesa Collier. The argument here is that her stats aren't better than the MVP, A'ja Wilson. Assuming that these awards are based solely on stats, let's crunch the numbers. In around 35 minutes a game, Collier averages 7.5 defensive rebounds, 1.9 steals, 1.4 blocks, and 2.6 fouls. They don't separate fouls in whether they're offensive or defensive, but I think that is relevant to this conversation surrounding defense. In around 34 minutes a game, Wilson averages 9.8 defensive rebounds, 1.8 steals, 2.6 blocks, and 1.8 fouls. Wilson actually leads the leagues in blocks per game, while Collier is 7th on that list. So if Collier isn't leading in any of the defensive stats, what are we using as a measuring stick? It has to be something tangible, right? One could argue that Collier is on the better defensive team. The Lynx rank 2nd in the league for defense, just under the Connecticut Sun, while the Aces rank 6th. This stat is based on how many points a team allows on average per game. History shows that people get tired of winners like, damn, just let someone else win type energy. And this feels like a product of that. Like, oh, we just voted A'ja for MVP, so she doesn't need Defensive Player of the Year too. But my thing is, if she earned it, she deserved it. No one wants a here damn award. Collier is a great defender, but Wilson has better numbers across the board and did it with less fouls per game. This brings me to the Lynx versus Liberty finals matchup. The Liberty are ranked 3rd in the league for best defense. Though they look unstoppable now after beating the Aces in 4, the Lynx have beaten the Liberty 3 out of the 4 times they met in the regular season. I get why Liberty fans are on a high because of New York's performance thus far in the playoffs, but let's be clear, we can't use the series against the Aces as a measuring stick for the Liberty's potential in this final matchup. I say that because 1, there was adrenaline and controversy on the table during that series. Wanting revenge is a huge motivator, and the Liberty wanted revenge. 2, the Aces have struggled defensively all season. They lost to the Atlanta Dream. No shade, no tea, but let's be for real. At no point this season were the Aces the best defensive team. A trend I see when looking over the 4 games between Minnesota and New York is on average, New York doesn't shoot as well against Minnesota as they do against other teams. On average, there's a 5% difference in field goal percentage. They're shooting 44.8% from the field for the regular season and shoot 39.8% from the field against Minnesota. In the Commissioner's Cup game, the Liberty gave up 27 points off of 20 turnovers compared to the Lynx's 9 points on 11 turnovers. They averaged 15 turnovers against the Lynx when they typically average 13.8. So more turnovers and poor shooting can be a testament to why the Lynx continue to dominate this matchup. The one game that New York took the W, Minnesota shot under 40%, and that was the only time that they did that in those 4 games. So the question there is, did New York win or did Minnesota lose? Playoff basketball is a different atmosphere, I get it. Minnesota only gets 1 day off before entering game 1, and that's tough, but sometimes no days off is better than having too many days off. I'm sure New York is going to bring it from tip-off because we're witnessing a team on a mission to secure their franchise's first ring. Speaking of franchises first, the Connecticut Sun will go yet another season without a championship. Why? They've come so close in the past. In 2019, under Kurt Miller, they lost to the Washington Mystics. The Sun were 23-11 that season. Funny enough, Jonquel Jones was a part of this team, along with Natisha Heidemann, Brianna Jones, Alyssa Thomas, Courtney Williams, Bridget Carleton, and Laisha Clarendon. The Mystics had Natasha Cloud, Christy Tolliver, Emma Messiman, Shatori Walker Kimbrough, Elena Del Don, and Ariel Atkins. Looking back at that game 5, I see mismanagement of personnel. Jones got into foul trouble early and it hurt. And in 2022, they played the Aces, and that was the start of the Aces back-to-back championships. You had Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, and A'ja Wilson all in great form. That's hard to beat. Again, the Sun had JJ, Brianna Jones, Williams, Heidemann, Bonner, Thomas, Carrington. The time timing of it all was just off. This season compared to others, they had less talent at all positions. When I look at their roster, they're limited in scoring from the mid-range and three. Their best scorers are DeWanna Bonner and Marina Mabrey, and those two have both been inefficient this season. Veronica Burton was solid, but she's not an offensive threat. Dejanay Carrington excels more so defensively and getting her offense going from that. They can go long stretches without scoring, and that's just not championship material. Alyssa Thomas, DeWanna Bonner, Dejanay Carrington, Veronica Burton, Tiffany Mitchell, and Brianna Jones are all free agents now, so the Sun could look very different in 2025. If I were in the front office, I would not want to start a complete rebuild. I think they're in a very good place. I would part ways with Jones, or at minimum bring another big in who could be the starter and move her into a supporting role. She's been with the franchise since 2017 and in my opinion regressing. It could be due to injury, but in general, for her size and position, she's a little soft. If she could make up for it in other places like a more consistent mid-range shot or with her footwork, she would be in good shape. But 5.5 rebounds per game at 6'3" in the center position, primarily in the post, is just not good enough for me. Scheme-wise, I would want a guard with better passing capabilities running the offense. It's great that AT is such a great passer, but I think she's wearing a lot of hats, and when things aren't going well, she's visibly frustrated, and the team suffers. They lose all composure. I don't think there's enough balance in the personality dynamics in Connecticut. It also hurts that she can't knock down a shot from the free throw line and beyond. I would keep her, but change how the scheme focuses on her and rework it. Despite Bonner's inconsistency this season, I'd keep her for her defensive presence and offensive potential. I also think you have to keep players like Carrington on your roster because of determination alone. She was their leading scorer in Game 5 against the Lynx. She was the most improved player for the league this season, and I think she'll be in that conversation again next year. She's a player that could get a triple-double off of points, rebounds, and steals. She's that good in those areas, and I think as she continues to grow, we'll see that happen for her. So if I'm in the front office for the Sun, I'll be looking for a better mid-range scorer and facilitator for the point guard position and a stronger center or more elusive scoring forward, and tweak the offensive scheme, assuming they re-sign the bulk of their free agents. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on these topics, Hoops Tribe, and just a heads up, I have some special guests in the near future to talk WNBA viewership disparities, what makes a point guard a point god, and so much more. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, let's talk hoops.